What's up, gamers? It's your boy MM2K back with another episode of Cloud Meets Mainstream. This is the members first content where we talk about cloud gaming from a perspective of how we can bridge the gap between cloud gaming and what it has to offer and what we legacy cloud gamers, how we want it to grow versus, or I guess in unison with is probably a better way to describe it. In unison with mainstream gamers' needs and expectations on certain elements of gaming. Because without that, this will not become a mainstream, you know what I'm saying, vehicle for gaming. We need them, you know what I'm saying, to embrace this. And we got to understand there's just certain things that need to be addressed in the realm of cloud gaming in order for that embracing to occur. So how do we, the purpose of this show is how do we address that without compromising the core attributes of cloud gaming for the long term? This is episode 5, I believe. We're already 5 episodes in. It just felt like we started this yesterday. Something that I felt like that I could probably contribute to the channel in a way that isn't inflammatory to the average consumer here, because I get it. A lot of people here don't have the expectations for gaming that I have. I was just having this conversation yesterday on MM2K Gaming. That's my my personal channel and network of gaming expertise, gaming critiquing. And me and Cold Blood, the co-host there, we were talking about how even in my largest days advocating Stadia and cloud gaming, which I'm still a thorough advocate of. I love GeForce Now. I love what they're doing with cloud gaming, and I do feel like cloud gaming is the future. It's just right now. The future isn't now, meaning doesn't mean that it needs to be ignored. It means that there's still a lot of hard work to do for them to keep building, keep growing it, keep sustaining it, and, you know, rinse and repeat. And that means there's a lot of work that we need to do as far as understanding. I think a lot of us sit in these silos, in these prisms, and we think, you know, we're looking at the future. We're looking in the horizons at the future, and we're like, yeah, that's what gaming is going to be about. And we want to totally ignore what gaming is about now. In the future, that's not a guarantee. If we're being totally honest with ourselves, it's not a guarantee. Something we believe, it's something we desperately want, and we should want, because it's going to make gaming better. Definitely, it's going to make gaming better. But it's like a bridge. You have to carry people over from their current needs, and they got to be shown why, based upon their current needs, why crossing this bridge will expand what they feel their gaming needs are, and how they embrace gaming, and they'll be better for it. They'll enjoy it more. Not just they'll be better. They'll enjoy it more, and their experience will be better for it. Okay, so now we're going to talk about PlayStation. PlayStation basically has a dilemma that I spoke about on another channel, on MM2K Gaming News. Check it out. Again, not safe for work. Raw, uncut, really not safe for work. Put the kids to put the kids to bed, tuck granny into, you know what I'm saying? You might want to cover an ear or two. You know, we really give it raw and uncut. You know, we have adult conversations about games with other adults. And there's this thing about Helldivers 2, which was a huge surprise success for PlayStation. The question is, when is Helldivers 2 going to come to Xbox? Now, I created a video over there. All right. I created a video over there And this is some of my gameplay, just so you don't think I'm capping. I don't play these games. There's a video over there where I say PlayStation or Sony bringing Helldivers 2 to Xbox would be a bad idea for PlayStation. It is getting large interaction from people that actually want the game on Xbox, and these aren't Xbox people per se. I mean, yeah, there's some there, but they are PC people who just want more players, and I totally get that. I understand that desire, and I understand that a lot of you in the cloud community, like, yeah, MM2K, it's a non-brainer. Like, what are you talking about? Why did you make that video? You trying to get clicks? There is a staunch reason behind it. I mean, I think there's several good reasons on why it would be bad for PlayStation, but there's ultimately one reason that really gives me heartburn as someone who plays Helldivers 2 regularly. When I get, you know, as far as, matter of fact, it's replaced Division 2 as my go-to. And if you follow my content, y'all know how much I play Division 2. Like, Division 2 is my go-to. So as someone who, I got 5-hour streams of Helldivers 2 on MM2K Gaming streams. Check it out. It's all great content. I'm really concerned about this because for several reasons. I'll give you the lesser reasons first, and then I'll talk about the main reason. And then I'll talk about the solution. The lesser reasons are, one, I value exclusives on hardware. When it comes to cloud gaming or a platform or whatever like that, it's at this stage of the game, I don't think it's necessary. Like, GeForce Now is great the way that it is, just off of multi-plat content. They don't need to sit there and work with Valve and come with a GeForce Now exclusive video game. I think that's a waste of money and resources. You know what I'm saying? It would be great if you had somebody that would put an infusion of cash behind maybe PC exclusive content. I don't think that's bad. And hear me out, because as a AAA gamer that wants all the bells and whistles taken advantage of, I understand that when you got to parallel develop for multiple platforms and you got to take into consideration all these other devices that really aren't strong enough to maybe do some of the things that you want to do with your game, then that kind of sucks, right? But what if those of you that had the top 1% cards, that paid a lot of money for these cards, what if you were truly to get an experience that really like made your eyes melt for your $2,000? I think you deserve it. And then here's the beautiful thing about it too. You don't need to pay $2,000. Not with GeForce Now. So I mean, the experience can be in more hands than necessary. It's just that the funnels where they're accessible at aren't everywhere. And I think that's the problem. People say that exclusive content is anti-consumer. And I don't think that. I think that exclusive content creates a barrier that's needed to supplement top-notch quality. I'm going to get into that in a little bit, but more about the quality aspect of how that affects games and how exclusives fit into that. But yeah, you know, like for instance, when you take Crysis, the way they built Crysis, they didn't give a damn if you had lower they built Crysis for higher PCs, and it even was hard to play on higher PCs. Now, some of that was optimization. They needed to better optimize the game for PC too. But because even years later, it's like, can your rig play Crysis, right? But if I take a game, if I'm making a game, and I got funding from NVIDIA or somebody, AMD, I don't think we make it exclusive that it only runs on NVIDIA cards, but it really uses the NVIDIA tool set outright, and it's for the 40 series cards. You got to have it's built with maybe the 3070 in mind, or maybe the 3080 in mind on up. So you got to have so these people that spend thousands of dollars on these cards, they're really getting the best bang for their buck, because here's what's happening. These multi-platform games are trying to develop for so many avenues that they're trying to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. So their quality is heavily affected. Let's look at a game like Dragon's Dogma. Dragon's Dogma has bomb-ass gameplay. I can't deny that. Its gameplay is stellar. But if I went and spent $2,000 for a graphics card, $700 for, for a processor, I can't even get a stable 60 frames per second. That's absurd. And so I feel like that people that are trying to get the biggest bang for their buck and they want a specific performance, they're getting fleeced. And that's not right, because the games could do it if there were games that were optimized for that hardware. So I think that there should be games optimized for certain experiences, just like there's games optimized for VR. There's VR exclusive content, right? So I think even a PC would be, better if there were not a whole bunch, but some games that really allowed those people to get big bang for your buck. And there's nothing anti-consumer about it, because the options that are available, it all depends on the landscape. The options that are available allow something that's high demanding that can only be played on such cards accessible in your hands. How? Through NVIDIA GeForce Now Ultimate. And is it the cheapest cloud gaming experience? No. Are there cheaper ones? Yeah. But that's like VR. Is VR the cheapest experience? No. Would it be great to experience Half-Life Links or whatever the hell that VR experience is on your console? Yeah, but it's built for something expensive. It's built for a premium experience, and you got to pay for premium. And I don't think it's fair for that sector to pay for premium and not get it. We are getting games out here that, because they're focusing so much on a wide array of native hardware, that people are not getting the bang for their buck. And that's not cool. So that's why I'm not adverse to exclusive content. When I grew up, hell, the overwhelming majority of the games that I played were exclusive. Like, the only thing that you were getting that was multiplat was like a select number of sports games and fighting games. The top-notch fighting games and the top-notch sports games like NBA Jam, Madden, NBA Live, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Killer Instinct was what, you got those games multi-plat, and everything else was exclusive. So it's this mindset that I really don't think is looking at things, again, from 5,000 feet, that don't understand how good you really have it. Now it's the reciprocal. Now it's reverse, where maybe 90% of the games were exclusive, and 10% were multi-plat. Now it's the reverse. Now it's like 10% of the games are exclusive and 90% are multi-plat. But the thing that got everybody's, underoos in an itch is that the best games are exclusive. That's why you want to play them. If they weren't the best games, you could care less. But you want to play those games because they are the best games. But what you're not correlating is that they are the best games because they're exclusive. Huh? How is that the case? They are the best games because they're exclusive, because they have additional funding that is there as quality control to ensure that this game stands out in a collective of other exclusive games to make the catalog of a particular box seem superior. Because the way consoles work is, look, most of their money is made off the multi-plats, yes. But look, Fortnite is pretty much the same on Xbox and PlayStation, and it's enjoyable, buy that brass on Switch, right? So why would they're fighting for the Fortnite Call of Duty money, the Roblox and whatever, money that's out there. They're really fighting for that money. So they got to get you to buy their box over the competitor's box so you can play those multi-plat, those Leviathan games on their platforms. How do they do that? They make their catalog look more attractive with the exclusives. And that's why there's more care, there's more quality control, and there's all that infused into the exclusive content to where you see these exclusive games. If you look over the 10-year collective of games that reached player game of the year status, they are overwhelmed by exclusive content. When you look at NPD, the top selling games, they are overrun with exclusive content as well. Don't get me wrong, your Leviathan games are up there. Your games like Roblox and they're there, but it's so difficult to replicate that success because it's luck. It's like lightning in the barrel. It's luck. So you can't replicate that as a they try and they fail so much. But it's easier to look at a God of War, a Halo, whatever, and say, you know what? We think we can try that with our own spin. Doesn't always work, but they see more success in taking inspiration from those exclusive AAA games or those exclusive games, right? And trying to replicate those. That's how the industry has survived. Prime example of this, even though this isn't a first party example, this is an example of someone going and saying, look, I like what you're doing, but let me help you out to make this better. Demon Souls. Demon Souls was an exclusive for PlayStation 3. Just in the vein of Stellar Blade. And Demon Souls has dictated so much of how we play games now. Everything is a Souls-like. Remnant, one of my favorite games. Remnant and Remnant 2, probably one of your favorite games to play on the cloud. Yes, this affects you on the cloud. You don't get Remnant or Remnant 2 without Souls. You don't get Souls quality without the infusion and cash and the support that they got from PlayStation in the development process. And then that studio can take that and then build from that. And that's what makes them great. You had even Arkham Studio, was it Arkham? I think it is, when they made Deathloop. I feel like Deathloop is their best title. I love Deathloop. Arcane. But the Arcane Studios that's behind the Dishonored series. I feel like Deathloop is their best title. That was an exclusive for them. They said that they learned so much from Sony, like that them sitting down and working with Sony, they learned so much that it's helped them for a studio forever. I think they won an award at DICE for Deathloop. I think it won Game of the Year or something like it won some type of award. And when they were there talking about it, they were talking about how much they learned from Sony in developing games. This is somebody that already had accolades for their Dishonored series and other games. I really like this stream marker thing. Sorry about that, y'all. I had to step away for a second. So we'll make sure that we cut this out. So exclusive content driven by the need to sell hardware. Inadvertently for us cloud gamers, you know what I mean? And I know it sucks. I get it. I totally get it. Like, we want this hardware agnostic existence. We want hardware agnostic to be the theme of gaming. But you got to deal with this with a scalpel and not a hatchet. We have to be surgical in this application of this. Why? Because if we just take a hatchet and cut off the need for hardware, we could be cutting off our nose to spite our face. Hardware agnostic content. Hardware agnostic content is going to lead to the degradation of quality if we just cut it off. And Helldivers 2 is what brought this up. Helldivers 2, which is a big topic of discussion in regards to why isn't it everywhere? It's not because Sony needs to sell consoles or Sony needs to saturate its ecosystem. I'll put it like that. That's how Sony survives. They survive by selling their console and saturating their ecosystem, meaning your access to their store, to their suite of services and products, not just an access to PlayStation Plus Premium. That's not a PlayStation doesn't survive if they just get a whole bunch of PlayStation Plus people. That's not how their business is built. Their business is built around the entirety of their suite of services and you buying games. You buying games that they have to offer. And when I say offer, I don't mean games that they develop. I mean games that they offer on their ecosystem, which are Fortnite, Call of Duty, Roblox. You know what I'm saying? You engaging with those games is what keeps PlayStation afloat. PlayStation attracts you to their ecosystem by having exclusive catalog content that makes you say, oh, I'd rather play Roblox there than elsewhere. You just going around and playing Roblox everywhere all of a sudden versus when you were playing it all the time on PlayStation or 90% of the time on PlayStation, that hurts PlayStation's bottom line. So of course they're not going to want to give this up. This is a business, and for you to have the expectation of someone to say, you know what? This is a big revenue builder for our business strategy. We don't just use it to subsidize something. This is actually part of our business strategy or revenue growth, right? But we're just going to cut it out because it makes things easier for you. That's trust me, that's not going to happen. You might have situations where Xbox gets rid of the paywall that it had for free-to-play games because of how Xbox Live was set up. They did that to subsidize the losses that they were getting on consoles. So that's different. But something that's part of their advertised revenue stream to investors, they're not just going to split that. Why? Because they're a publicly traded company. Not only do they have to battle their competitors as far as revenue, but then they're also compared to their revenue from a previous quarter. So they gotta do better than themselves. Not only do they have to do better than competitors, they gotta do better than themselves. Cutting off an anchor of your revenue like that is the antithesis of such. We got to be realistic here. This is not charity. This is not the Red Cross making games here. It's not the Salvation Army. This is a business. And I'm not saying that every single business practice is okay because of that, but you got to understand that important revenue streams that you've subsided to previously are not just going to go away for the sake of a convenience that's not part of the mainstream convenience. So even though you want to play games everywhere, that's not the approach to the average gamer. The average gamer is like, look, I understand if I want to play this, I got to buy that. But what they are used to, though, are these big ticket multi-plat games being accessible everywhere. Right? And so when we look at Starfield, Starfield for all intents and purposes was originally going to be a multi-plat. And it wasn't, because Xbox bought them. And guess what? They had every right to do that. And these same people that are like, oh, bring Helldivers here. Not all of them, but a lot of them didn't complain about Starfield being exclusive. I think it would have been better if it was multi-plat for the sake of that game. But that's Xbox's property. They can do whatever they want with it. Same with Helldivers. PlayStation has built a brand that's based upon our exclusive content is synonymous with how you embrace our ecosystem. So I don't think that the problem is, oh man, we got to have Sony games everywhere. I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is, in order for me to enter the Sony ecosystem, that door needs to become wider. And what do I mean by that? I think the most efficient solution to this is PlayStation 5 Cloud. PlayStation 5 Cloud presents high quality gaming. High quality gaming. I mean, it's fantastic. I put it right behind NVIDIA GeForce Now Ultimate. High quality gaming, 60 frames per second, 4K gaming for simply PlayStation titles that, in order for you to engage with these PlayStation titles, you still got to buy them off the PlayStation Store. You still got to, interact with the PlayStation service in order to pay them for the service in order to access them. So instead of me, outright buying a console for $500, or $400, I can go and pay X amount of dollars a month, and then Sony can recoup that way. And I think that's a more consumer-friendly way to say, look, to maintain, for the cost of the service, and, some revenue, this is how much you got to pay a month, or you could pay this annually. And you buy our game, or you indulge in it if we bundle it into the subscription part of it. I think that door needs to be made wider, because that does so many things. That not only makes PlayStation games more accessible without that big old clunky $500 upfront paywall, but it allows me to play in more places. It allows me to play on my PC. It allows me to play on the dongle. Like, why would I need to play on an Xbox when it comes to consoles, Xbox is the least engaged way to play games on consoles? If PlayStation puts its games and makes it accessible on a dongle on a PC, on a phone, on a Chromebook, then why is there a need for me to play it on a console? Who cares? I can play it in those other places. And PlayStation still sees the complete benefit of not only having the closed ecosystem where they get all the profits they would get whether you got it on a console or not, but another thing that they can do is they can combat piracy. That's on like they put Horizon Forbidden West on PC, got cracked in 30 seconds. The crack was already out there in 30 seconds. That's absurd. You combat all that and you increase your umbrella, you increase your footprint by using the cloud. By not restricting people to the console, but just letting people, pay the subscription service fee to access your cloud service. And you either bundle a game in there or you do what works for you. People got to buy it. I think the only thing that they got to work on is these third-party companies that are they going to let the license be, transferable to the native counterpart. That could be a challenge. But you, as in PlayStation, you make your license transferable anywhere. If I buy it through PlayStation Cloud, I got the native PC version, I got the native Xbox version too. And I got the cloud version. That's what you do for PlayStation. I think you can expand your envelope so much. All right, so yeah. The problem here is that Xbox isn't a necessity to increase your saturation and your availability. And look, the way Xbox advertises it is I don't need to sell you a box. So if they're becoming less reliant on the box, then why is there a diehard need for it to be available natively on an Xbox? You can get a Chromebook and play cloud games through a Chromebook. You can play on a dongle. I think you service the needs of what PlayStation needs, and then you still make it accessible to gaming. In a very opening way where it's pretty much hardware agnostic. Of course, because they're competitors, they're not going to put it on PlayStation. I mean, they're not going to put their service on Xbox and Nintendo. And I think that part of it is fine. There are so many more accessible devices and dongles, for crying out loud. You can get an Android dongle for $20. There's so many accessible things to where that whole consumer, unfriendly argument is dead in the water. So hopefully what PlayStation does is they open up games like Helldivers on the cloud, and then they make the cloud playable in more places. And I think you justify that even from a brand separation standpoint from, look, instead of you paying the $500 up front, you're paying for PlayStation. You got to pay to access the cloud service, which is fine, makes sense. Stuff isn't cheap. And then you got to buy the game anyway. Or, you get the benefits of enjoying it via the subscription service if we bundle it in the game. I think that's more than a fair enough alternative that makes the game readily accessible to a lot more people, to where, all right, you can play it on the cloud, and again, you might be able to play it on your Xbox, just not natively. Like, you may be able to go and open an online browser and play it, depending upon how PlayStation may make it accessible. They may definitively say, no, we're going to close it off Xbox, and that's their right, that's their choice. But again, by opening it up on the cloud, the way that these other apps like GeForce Now, whatever, are available on the cloud, I think you make it so accessible. You make it so accessible. PCs are everywhere. Even underpowered PCs, doesn't matter. It's cloud app, native app. Underpowered PCs, all these devices are everywhere. There's no excuse. You know what I'm saying? But Sony then takes the guardrails off, so to speak, while still maintaining their brand exclusivity that their business line is built off of. So yeah, that's it from your boy. Hopefully that makes sense on what I think PlayStation should do as far as embracing more gamers. I think they do it through the cloud. They have an excellent service. Of course, it needs polish. Of course, it needs work, and it has to, support the wide breadth of people that undoubtedly would come and join the service. But it'll be worth it in the long run. You know what I'm saying? And without you having to continue to support stuff natively, do parallel development, and then burn resources, and risk piracy that could harm you. If it's available on the PC via cloud, what's the problem? That's actually better, because I don't have to have a high power rig in order to enjoy Helldivers. And then there doesn't have to be parallel development. All I got to do is just make sure that the native PlayStation version, the PC version, and probably just as a direct correlation with the native PlayStation, the cloud version is working. That's all I got to do. Expand that way. I think that's the answer for all. All right, with that said, I appreciate everybody. Thank you for joining me. Sorry for the hiccups. Hopefully they'll be gone before I release this. But again, check us out every Thursday here with the members on Cloud Meets Mainstream. Cloud Meets Mainstream. All right. With that said, appreciate everybody. Till next time, have a wonderful gaming day. Peace.